The room went quiet the moment the words landed. Real fighters don't et ball. 8 people stood frozen in Elvis Presley's private gym. No cameras, no reporters, just breath, muscle, and the soft hum of fluorescent lights. Bruce Lee did not respond. He did not raise his hands. He did not correct the man who said it. He simply lowered his eyes for a second. Elvis shifted his weight. A bodyguard tightened his jaw. Someone near the mirrors stopped breathing. This was not a movie set. This was not a demonstration. It was a challenge spoken out loud in a room that belonged to the king of rock and roll. Bruce Lee took one quiet step forward, and in that single movement, something changed. Not just between two men, but in everyone watching. What happened next never made the newspapers, but 8 people carried it for the rest of their lives. The sentence did not come out loud. It came out steady. Real fighters don't stand ball. No anger in it, no raised voice. Just a simple statement spoken in Elvis Presley's private gym. Bruce Lee did not look up right away. 8 people were standing in a loose circle on the mat. Heavy bags rested against the walls. Mirrors reflected shoulders, crossed arms, careful distance. The air carried the faint smell of sweat and rubber flooring. Elvis shifted his feet. One of the guards stopped tapping his knuckles. Someone near the doorway inhaled and forgot to exhale. Bruce remained still. His hands rested naturally at his sides. His posture was relaxed, almost casual. He had just finished showing Elvis a small movement with his wrist, a soft redirect, nothing flashy. The man who spoke stood taller than everyone else. Broad shoulders, thick forearms, the kind of build that came from years of stepping between danger and the person you protect. His eyes stayed on Bruce, searching, measuring. He was not trying to insult him. He was trying to understand him. Bruce lifted his gaze slowly. Not sharp, not defensive, just present. Their eyes met for a moment. The room seemed to lean inward. Bruce gave a small nod. No argument, no correction. That silence lasted longer than anyone expected. 3 seconds. 4. Elvis glanced from the bodyguard to Bruce. Another guard shifted his stance. Bruce lowered his eyes briefly, as if acknowledging something deeper than the words. Then he straightened. A single breath. That was it. No explanation. No smile. He took one quiet step forward. The sound of his bare foot against the mat was soft, but everyone heard it. The bodyguard tightened his jaw. Elvis folded his arms without realizing he was doing it. Bruce stopped an arm's length away. He did not raise his hands. He did not take a fighting stance. He simply stood there, calm, waiting. The bodyguard hesitated, just for a moment, not because he was afraid, because something in Bruce's stillness felt different, unmovable. Bruce's eyes stayed gentle, open, inviting. The mirrors caught their reflection. One man built for impact, one man built for balance. No one spoke. A bead of sweat slid down someone's temple. Bruce tilted his head slightly, offering space instead of challenge. The room held its breath, and without a word, the question in the air changed. Not can you fight, but how do you move through pressure? The bodyguard took a step closer. The circle tightened, and everything was about to shift. Elvis broke the silence first. Not with words, with movement. He walked toward the heavy bag near the wall and placed his hand on it, grounding himself. The leather creaked softly under his palm. It was a small gesture, but it reset the room. Bruce noticed. He turned slightly, allowing Elvis back into the center of the moment. This is where I train, Elvis said quietly. His voice carried weight here. Not the voice of a performer, the voice of a man in his own space. Bruce nodded once. He took a slow walk around the gym. His eyes moved over the mirrors, the mats, the ropes coiled neatly in the corner. He paused at a set of worn gloves hanging on a hook. He touched them lightly, respectful, then stepped away. No commentary, just acknowledgement. Elvis watched closely. Bruce stopped in front of the mirrors. He lifted one hand and demonstrated a simple movement, a short rotation of the wrist, a small shift of the hips, nothing dramatic, just alignment. Elvis copied him. Not perfectly. Bruce waited, then adjusted Elvis's elbow with 2 fingers. A guard near the wall swallowed. Bruce stepped back. Elvis tried again. This time the motion flowed. Bruce gave a quiet nod. That nod landed harder than praise. Around them the others stayed still. They had seen Elvis train before. They had watched him spar with instructors. But this felt different. There was no show here, no audience, just two men sharing space. The bodyguard kept his arms crossed. His eyes tracked every movement Bruce made. He noticed how Bruce never rushed, how he never overextended, how even when he shifted positions, his feet barely made sound. Bruce demonstrated another movement. Elvis followed. Bruce corrected him again, this time with a gentle tap to the shoulder. Elvis exhaled slowly. He looked at Bruce with genuine appreciation. "Thank you," Elvis said. Bruce inclined his head. The bodyguard shifted his weight from one foot to the other. He had protected Elvis through crowds, through hotel lobbies, through nights that turned ugly fast. He had handled drunk fans and sudden threats. He knew chaos. He knew force. What he was seeing now did not match that world. Bruce stepped aside and gestured for Elvis to try the sequence alone. Elvis did. His breathing deepened. Bruce watched without interrupting. A moment passed. Then another. Bruce said nothing. That silence became a mirror. The bodyguard felt it. He uncrossed his arms. He took a step forward. Not aggressive, just closer. His voice came out controlled. "Can I ask something?" Bruce turned toward him immediately. Open. Available. Yes. The room leaned in, and whatever comfort had been building began to thin. The bodyguard did not rush his words. He stood with his hands resting on his hips, eyes steady, breathing measured. He had learned long ago that real danger does not announce itself. It arrives quietly, so he spoke the same way. "I have been protecting Elvis for a long time," he said. Elvis did not interrupt. Neither did Bruce. The man shifted his stance slightly, planting his feet wider, a habit from years of bracing himself between strangers and the person behind him. "I have seen crowds turn," he continued. "I have seen calm places get loud fast. I have pulled people away from knives, from broken bottles, from hands that did not belong." No one moved. Bruce listened. Not with crossed arms, not with skepticism. He simply listened. The bodyguard's eyes flicked briefly to Elvis, then back to Bruce. "What you show looks clean," he said. "Precise, controlled." A pause. "But real protection is messy." His jaw tightened. "There are no rules. People rush you. They grab your jacket. They swing wild. You do not get space. You do not get time." He let that hang. Bruce nodded once. The bodyguard exhaled through his nose. "I respect skill," he said. "I do, but I need to know how what you teach holds up when someone does not care about form." Bruce did not answer right away. He held the man Sepp's gaze. 3 seconds passed. 4. Someone near the mirrors adjusted their footing. Bruce lowered his eyes briefly, as if considering the weight of what had been said. Then he looked back up. "That is a fair question," Bruce said softly. His voice did not rise. It did not carry authority. It carried calm. He stepped closer to the mat and gestured with an open palm. "Would you like to feel it?" The bodyguard hesitated, not out of fear, out of responsibility. He glanced at Elvis. Elvis nodded. "Once, that was all." The bodyguard rolled his shoulders back. He reached behind him, took off his jacket, and handed it to one of the other guards. His arms were thick, scarred in small places, built by years of impact. He stepped onto the mat. Bruce followed. No dramatic entrance, just two men standing a few feet apart. The size difference was obvious. The room closed in. Bruce stood relaxed. His hands hung loose. His breathing stayed slow. The bodyguard kept his posture natural. No stance, no ceremony. This was how he moved in parking garages and hotel corridors. Bruce met his eyes. "No one gets hurt," Bruce said quietly. The bodyguard nodded. Agreed. They stood there for a moment. 8 people watched. No one spoke. Bruce did not raise his guard. He only waited. And the bodyguard took the first step forward. The bodyguard moved the way he always did. Not like a fighter. Like someone intercepting danger. His right hand came forward fast and direct, reaching for Bruce's shoulder, a simple grab. The same motion he used when pulling strangers away from Elvis in crowded hallways. Bruce Sipp's left hand met his wrist. Not with force, with timing. A light redirect, barely visible. The bodyguard Sipp's hand slid past empty air. A quiet inhale rippled through the room. The bodyguard reset. This time he stepped in harder, closed distance. He wanted chest-to-chest contact, where weight mattered, where strength decided outcomes. Bruce did not retreat. He shifted sideways, just enough. The bodyguard turned, surprised, reaching with both hands now. They caught nothing. Bruce had already moved, not far, just off the line. The mirrors reflected their shadows crossing and separating. The bodyguard frowned. He circled once, testing space, then surged forward again, trying to overwhelm. His arms swept wide, aiming to wrap Bruce and pin him with mass. Bruce slipped inside the movement. His feet whispered against the mat. He placed one hand lightly on the man's forearm, the other near his shoulder, not gripping, guiding. The bodyguard felt his balance tilt. He corrected. Then he changed tactics. He dropped his weight and shot toward Bruce's legs, aiming for a tackle. Years of practical wrestling kicked in. If he could get Bruce on the ground, size would settle everything. Bruce Sepp's palms touched his shoulders, soft, almost polite, but the pressure redirected downward and outward at the same time. The bodyguard felt his momentum leave him. His knees touched the mat, not slammed, not thrown, placed. 16 seconds had passed. Bruce stood above him, not looming, not triumphant, just standing. The room froze. One guard Sepp's mouth stayed open. Elvis took a small step forward without realizing it. The bodyguard looked up, confusion written across his face. He had not been hurt. He had not been struck. Yet he was on his knees. Bruce stepped back immediately. He extended his hand. The bodyguard stared at it for half a second. Then he took it. Bruce helped him up. No rush, no grip of dominance, just support. The bodyguard stood there, breathing heavier now. He adjusted his shirt. His eyes searched Bruce's face, looking for arrogance. There was none, only calm. Bruce nodded slightly. The mirrors showed 8 people who had just witnessed something they did not have words for. No one clapped. No one spoke. Bruce returned to his original spot on the mat and relaxed his shoulders. The bodyguard swallowed. His voice came out quiet. That was real. Bruce inclined his head. Thank you for trusting me. Elvis exhaled slowly, and something invisible shifted between all of them. No one moved right away. The heavy bag swayed slightly from air displacement, then settled. Bruce stood with his hands resting loosely at his sides. His breathing had already returned to normal. The bodyguard took a step back, then another, not retreating, recalibrating. He ran a hand over the back of his neck, eyes lowered for a moment. When he looked up again, something in his expression had softened. Not defeat, recognition. Bruce met his gaze, said nothing. That silence did more than any explanation could. Elvis was the first to break it. He stepped forward slowly, stopping beside Bruce. He looked at the bodyguard, then at Bruce, then back again. His voice came out quieter than usual. Bruce, would you teach me? The room stilled. Bruce turned toward Elvis fully now. He studied him for a brief moment, as if weighing the sincerity behind the words. Elvis did not flinch. His shoulders were relaxed, his eyes steady. Bruce nodded once. Yes, he said, but it is not quick. Elvis did not hesitate. I understand. The bodyguard cleared his throat. He stepped closer, standing beside Elvis. Mr. Lee, he said. Bruce turned. I was wrong. His voice held no embarrassment, only honesty. I thought strength was the answer. I thought experience meant control. He paused. What you showed, that was different. Bruce listened. Then he shook his head gently. No apology is needed, Bruce said. You protect someone you care about. You should question everything. The bodyguard absorbed that. He nodded slowly. Around them, the others remained silent, each processing the moment in their own way. One guard wiped sweat from his brow. Another stared at the floor. Elvis took a breath. Then he straightened. His voice carried authority now. What happened here today stays here. Everyone looked at him. This is my home, my training, my life. He met each pair of eyes one by one. I do not want this discussed outside this room. No one argued. No one questioned. 8 people nodded. Bruce watched quietly. He did not insert himself into the decision. He simply respected it. The bodyguard slipped his jacket back on. His movements were slower now, more thoughtful. Bruce picked up a towel from the bench and wiped his hands. He folded it neatly before setting it back down. A small action, but deliberate. Elvis placed a hand briefly on Bruce Sepp's shoulder. A silent thank you. Bruce inclined his head, and in that basement gym, something fragile and permanent had just been formed. A moment sealed by silence. Bruce did not stay in the center of the room. He stepped aside. Not because he had been asked, because he did not need the space anymore. The mat felt different now. The air felt different. Even the mirrors seemed quieter. The bodyguard watched Bruce walk toward the bench near the wall. He noticed how Bruce folded the towel again, even though it was already neat. He noticed how Bruce adjusted his shoes before sitting down. Small habits, disciplined habits. Bruce poured himself a glass of water. He drank slowly, 2 sips. Then he set the glass back exactly where it had been. The bodyguard stood where he was. He had faced men bigger than Bruce, stronger than Bruce, angrier than Bruce. But none of them had ever made him reconsider how he moved through conflict. He took a breath. Then he walked over. He stopped a few feet away. Bruce looked up. Their eyes met, no tension this time. Just quiet acknowledgement. "I appreciate how you handled that," the bodyguard said. Bruce inclined his head. "You came with honest intent," Bruce replied. "That matters." The bodyguard nodded. Elvis watched from across the room. He leaned against one of the mirrors, arms folded loosely now. His expression was thoughtful, not excited. He was replaying the moment in his head, frame by frame. Bruce stood again and walked back toward Elvis. Not hurried, not slow. Elvis straightened. Bruce demonstrated another simple movement. Just a shift of weight, just a turn of the hips. Elvis followed. Bruce adjusted his foot placement with a light tap. Elvis tried again. Better. Bruce gave a small nod. Around them, the others observed in silence. One guard caught his own reflection and looked away. Another rested his palm on the heavy bag, grounding himself. Bruce stopped speaking entirely. He simply moved. Elvis mirrored him. For a few seconds, no one else existed. Just 2 men breathing in the same rhythm. Then Bruce stepped back. He bowed his head slightly, not to impress, not to perform, just respect. The bodyguard noticed it. So did everyone else. No one mocked it this time. The bodyguard felt something settle in his chest. He walked over to Elvis and spoke quietly. "He is different." Elvis nodded. "I know." Bruce gathered his things. He did not linger. He thanked Elvis with a simple handshake, firm, warm. Then he turned toward the stairs. At the doorway he paused, not dramatically, just long enough to look back once. 8 people stood there, changed. Bruce gave a final small nod. Then he left the room, and none of them realized yet that this moment would follow them for decades. Bruce had not even reached the top of the stairs when Elvis spoke again. "Wait." His voice carried gently through the basement. Bruce stopped. He turned. Elvis walked toward him slowly. Each step measured, the others stayed back, giving space without being told. Elvis stood in front of Bruce. Not as a star, not as a host, as a man asking something personal. "I want to learn," Elvis said. "Not tricks, not moves. I want to understand what you understand." Bruce studied him. He did not answer immediately. His eyes searched Elvis's face, reading intention more than words. Elvis held his gaze. No pride, no impatience, just sincerity. Bruce nodded once. "That takes time," Bruce said. "It changes how you see pressure, how you respond when things move fast." Elvis did not blink. "I am willing." Bruce extended his hand. Elvis took it. Their handshake was quiet, deliberate. The bodyguard watched closely. He noticed how Bruce's grip was firm, but not dominant. How Elvis leaned in slightly, not away. Elvis turned to the room. His expression shifted. This was no longer training talk. "This stays here," Elvis said again, slower this time. He looked at each man individually, at the guards who had bled for him, at the friends who had protected his privacy. "What happened in this room does not leave this house." No one argued. The bodyguard spoke first. "You have my word." The others followed. One by one, Bruce listened without comment. He respected the boundary without needing explanation. Elvis walked back to Bruce. He placed his hand briefly over Bruce Sips's, a gesture of gratitude. Bruce bowed his head slightly. That was all. The bodyguard stepped forward. "Mr. Lee," he said. Bruce turned. "I tell people I am hard to impress." A small pause. "You impressed me." Bruce did not smile. He simply nodded. "Thank you." The bodyguard hesitated, then added, "You showed me something today." Bruce met his eyes. "So did you." Those words landed quietly. Elvis exhaled. The tension that had filled the room earlier had dissolved into something heavier. Outside, Graceland continued its normal rhythm. Cars passed. Birds moved through the trees. Inside, 8 people stood in stillness. They did not know yet that they had just become keepers of a moment, A moment that would never be retold. Bruce picked up his jacket. He thanked Elvis once more. Then he walked up the stairs, and the sound of his footsteps faded. Time did what it always does. It moved forward. But that afternoon stayed where it was. The bodyguard would go on protecting Elvis. He would stand between him and crowds, guide him through back doors, scan rooms before Elvis entered. But something had shifted in how he carried himself. He listened more. He moved with less force. Sometimes, when things got tense, he would remember Bruce's stillness before that first step forward. Elvis trained regularly after that. Not with cameras, not for show. Sometimes Bruce came to Graceland. Sometimes Elvis went to Los Angeles. Their sessions were quiet, focused. Two men meeting in discipline, not celebrity. They did not talk about that first day. They did not need to. The others kept their promise. Over the years, people asked questions. Did Elvis really train with Bruce Lee? They nodded. Was Bruce as good as they say? They answered simply, yes. No one ever described the moment on the mat. No one mentioned the knees touching the floor. No one spoke about the silence that followed. It was not written in memoirs. It was not sold to magazines. Because Elvis had asked, and Elvis' word mattered. When Bruce passed away, Elvis sent flowers. He made a phone call no one else heard. He sat alone for a long time afterward. When Elvis later died, each of the men who had been in that room carried the memory privately. They did not carry a story. They carried a feeling, a quiet understanding of restraint, of timing, of respect. Sometimes the bodyguard would be asked what Bruce Lee was really like. He would pause, then say, he was calm. That was all. No one ever knew that 8 people had once held their breath together in a basement gym. No one knew how close strength had come to colliding with something deeper. Bruce Lee walked away unchanged. He did not gain status from that day. He did not tell anyone what happened. He simply continued being who he already was. The others did not. They had seen what happens when power chooses control. They had felt the room change without a word being spoken. And long after Graceland became a museum, long after posters faded, long after voices grew quiet, 8 people still remembered the sound of a soft footstep on a mat. And how everything changed after that.